Hello, BookTube. I've got some mail for you today on a day that started out a little bit mild, a little bit fuzzy, a little bit of low-hanging scut, as the pilots say, but has cleared up just a bit. I think we're getting rain overnight, a little bit of rain overnight, but it was beautiful for the day's longer walk with the little princess. It was good for that. Uh, it's been good for other things too. Very productive day, very nice. Uh, to read all morning, I have to wait for Her Highness to feel like getting out of bed. She doesn't like to get up with the dawn. I've had dogs that did. I've had dogs that were eager to get out as soon as there was ambient light, but instead, with my current dog, she's not a morning person. So I was just reading contentedly for hours after the hours that I spent reading last night because she wasn't ready to get out of bed, and I sort of have a kind of sort of rule that I really don't want to set fingers on keyboards to do any actual work, writing or emails or whatnot, until a little bit later. I don't want to jump into the day doing that first thing. Instead, I usually start the day with reading. On my Nook, on my Kindle, rather, this little thing here, which I've gone back and forth. I've said over and over again that I prefer this, an iPad mini. Basically the same form factor. They're basically the same form factor, but this has, internet connectivity, so it can do Instagram and Twitter and YouTube and whatnot. And I would tell myself that I would say, well, if I'm reading something and I want to jump over to Wikipedia and figure out some question that's come up in my mind, or if I'm reading something and I want to jump to someone's review of that something or other, something like that, sort of assisted reading, that it's easier to do that on a device like an iPad mini, which is this is a fantastic form factor. It's great to be able to do something on an elegant slate of metal and glass like that, whereas a Kindle is solely dedicated to reading. It has an experimental browser, but it's so bad you wouldn't want to use it. And I just kept telling myself that over and over again. I told you that many, many, many times. But I found myself not ever using those features on the iPad mini or on my full-sized iPad. I found myself never using that. I would get so caught up in a book that I wouldn't care. I could chase down everything I want, all the ancillary stuff I want later. And that made me think, well, if that's true, then do you need anything more than this? This is made for you to get caught up in a book. It's made for you to get lost in a book for hours and hours on end without, unlike with the iPad mini, worrying about whether or not you're eating into your battery. So, but anyway, that's I spent the morning doing that. That was wonderful. And that also makes me feel a little bit better about leaping into work a little bit later, mid-morning, once the Bean and I have stretched our legs and got the blood flowing. But all that is just throat clearing. We have some packages here. No boxes, but a fair number of packages. Let me get the Kindle out of the way. It's sort of ironic, isn't it? I just realized I moved my Kindle out of the way so that I could open packages of analog print and glue books. There's a Wes Anderson movie in that somewhere. So let's see what this first one is. Oh, gross. All right, well that's an invoice. We don't want an invoice, but this is a finished copy. Oh, okay, great. No pub sheet with this, so I don't know when this is coming out. I'm assuming that it's probably an April release. Probably it's this week, or maybe early May. I'll look it up right away. This is a subject that endlessly fascinates me, just endlessly. Let's hope that this one hits some of the right notes. This is by Carl Marci, MD, and it is called Rewired: Protecting Your Brain in the Digital Age. Do I have to show you the Bean? She might turn her head, right? Just to look at you, gaze upon you, give you a bit of her imperial regard. She was, there you go. She was so hilarious on the walk this afternoon. She was so hilarious. She's just so much fun to walk with. She's so infinitely interested in everything. And it's not cold anymore. It's not actively bone-chilling, thigh-freezing cold anymore. So I get, as I've mentioned on this channel, I get to do what you should all do with your dogs, and what I like to do all the time when I physically can, which is you put the harness on the dog, If you're walking your dog with a noose around their dog's neck, you should change that to a harness right away. But you put your harness on the dog, and that is for X factors, traffic, aggressive dogs who come out of nowhere, things like that. That's for X factors. But the walk should consist of your dog walking with you and you stopping whenever your dog wants to stop for however long your dog wants to stop. No matter how long the end result takes, it's the only time they get outside. It was fun to do, but her interactions with other living beings are just hilarious. She's not aggressive to other dogs. I don't believe she would bite another dog even if she was bitten first. She's not aggressive at all, but she is extremely what st.donoghue used to call chesty. She's extremely chesty with other dogs. She's not aggressive towards them, but she definitely lets them know that she's there and that she's boss. And it's just the exact opposite reaction with humans, except to the extent that humans don't have an actual choice of whether or not they must bend down and fuss over her. She doesn't give people a choice. She screams at them in German until they do that. Fortunately, it's so incredibly cute that people do it. But anyway, this is a pretty neat cover, don't you think? That's a pretty neat cover. In a kind of a basic way, I like that cover. So let's see what Dr. Marcy has to say. We live in a world that is always on, where everyone is always connected. Well, not me. Hopefully not you. Hopefully you've learned enough from life or from this channel, to the limited extent that there's a difference between life and this channel, that you keep your reading time sacrosanct. I have an ingrained, long-standing habit that at midnight I turn into a pumpkin. I turn off all activity, all interaction with the outside world, and just read. And I found that my little Kindle makes it infinitely possible to do that at all times, every time that I pick it up to read. I hope you do the same. You should. That is recharging time. You need that really bad. You cannot be on all the time. But anyway, but we feel increasingly disconnected. Why? The answer lies in our brains. The author, MD in big letters, they want to make sure you know that he's a doctor, a leading expert on social and consumer neuroscience, reviews the mounting evidence that overuse of smartphones and social media is rewiring our brains, resulting in a losing deal. We are neglecting the relationships that sustain us and keep us healthy in favor of weaker and more ephemeral ties. The ability to connect and form strong social bonds is fundamental to human experience and emerged through unique structures in our brain. But ever more powerful technologies and ubiquitous access to media have hijacked our need to connect intimately and emotionally with others. The quick highs of clicking like and swiping right, for you innocents out there, swiping right refers to dating apps. Dating apps is the euphemism we will use here. They overstimulate the same neurological reward centers associated with social relationships. The habits that accompany our digital lifestyle are putting tremendous pressure on critical components of the brain associated with attention, emotion, and memory, changing how we process information and altering how we communicate and relate, even at a physiological level. I've heard this claim many, many times, and I noticed the habit parts of it very much so. So the part about how we process information, how long we can pay attention, how long we can stay in the moment, how distractible we are, what kind of a pull these devices have on us when they're just sitting there on the table. I'm very interested in that, but some of the deeper stuff here, the physiological stuff, I have yet to see any convincing actual proof of that. And so if anybody's going to present me with that proof, it's going to be a doctor. So we shall see. As a psychiatrist working at the forefront of research on the impact of digital technology, the author has seen this transformation up close and developed a range of responses. Rewired provides scientifically supported solutions for everyone who wants to restore their tech life balance. Well, you could get a dog. that would help a lot. From parents concerned about their children's exposure to the internet to stressed workers dealing with the deluge of emails and managing the expectations of 24/7 availability. Okay. If you have someone in your life, a boss, a coworker, who is demanding 24/7 availability, they're the bad guy. They're the villain. It's not the technology. It's them. What you need to do is simply say, I'm leaving work at 5 today, and I'm not available to you for any reason whatsoever until 9 tomorrow morning. Just as simple as that. And if your employment depends on that not being true, you need to get out of that job. That's all there is to it. That's all there is to it. I mean, it's a little ironic for me to say, because I have much wider, what a friend of mine refers to as office hours. I have much wider office hours than most people do it, or should. If you have a family and friends and pants, then you should limit your availability to people who don't give a crap about you. But for instance, I tend to be available for my various paymasters, my various friends, various colleagues who might need me in various capacities, and also all of you. I like to be available there from mid-morning, Boston time, to midnight. It's no skin off mine. It's what I'm trying to say is that although I'm advising you of one thing, it's not that I'm not being hypocritical. I'm on the fainting couch working, and that leaves a lot of elbow room for dealing with other people, for emailing other people. Fortunately, my slate is clean when it comes to doom scrolling. That is just a complete boring waste of time. That is this book. So who is this author? Carl D. Marcy is a leader in the fields of social and consumer neuroscience, is chief medical officer at the Kava Capital, and was formerly chief neuroscience for the Nielsen Company. Didn't know Kava Capital or Nielsen Company had doctors on call. He is also on the faculty at Harvard Medical School and is a psychiatrist at Massachusetts General Hospital. Okay. His author bio does not say whether or not he's ever given a TED Talk. I'm curious to know now. I wonder what his online presence is. But this sounds fascinating. I'm going to find the date on it right away. But it's a finished copy, so no matter what its date is, its date cannot be far away. If this isn't out already, it's coming out soon, which means I can read it tonight, which is great. That's absolutely great, because I want to. I love books like that. Absolutely love it. Because we are living through history. I've said many, many times, we're living through history. This thing, the internet, is nothing like it has ever happened before. You know, I might say we're living through history when it comes to the pandemic, but that is precedented. I might say we're living through history when I predict that America is right about ready, just a few months away from radically changing its character, the character that it's held for 200 and something years. But even that is precedented. But the internet, totally unprecedented. But anyway, what's this next thing we've got? Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, well, here's another book with no pub sheet. Okay, this is by David de Jong, and it is Nazi Billionaires. The Dark History of Germany's Wealthiest Dynasties. A shiny cover there, and huge skyscrapers. Very nice cover design there. I like that a lot. That's two cover designs I can live with. What have we got here? In 1946, Gunter Quandt, patriarch of Germany's most iconic industrial empire, a dynasty that today controls BMW, was arrested for suspected Nazi collaboration. He claimed that he had been forced to join the party by his arch-rival, propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels, and the court acquitted him. But he had lied. And his heirs, and those of other Nazi billionaires, have only grown wealthier in the generations since, while their reckoning with the dark past remains incomplete at best. Many of them continue to control swaths of the world's economy, owning iconic brands whose products blanket the globe. The brutal legacy of the dynasties that dominated Daimler-Benz, co-founded Allianz, and still control Porsche, Volkswagen, and BMW have remained hidden in plain sight until now. In this landmark work of investigative journalists, the author reveals the true story of how Germany's wealthiest business dynasties amassed untold power and wealth by abetting the atrocities of the Third Reich. Oh my God. Using a wealth of untapped sources, the author shows how these tycoons seized Jewish businesses, procured slave laborers, and ramped up weapons production to equip Hitler's army as Europe burned around them. Most shocking of all, the author exposes how America's political expediency enabled these billionaires to get away with their crimes, covering up a bloodstain that defiles the German and global economy to this day. All right, so for my own reasons, let's turn to the index and see whether or not the Bush family is prominently mentioned in this book. Let's take a look, shall we? Let's take a look. Oh my God, they're not mentioned at all. There's not a single entry in the index for the Bush family. How can that possibly be? How can that possibly be? Okay, well, I'll figure it out. I'll read the book. It's a finished copy, so I'll read it. I think this probably belongs on David Murphy's shelf, not mine. But who is the author? He's a journalist who has previously covered European banking and finance from Amsterdam and hidden wealth and billionaire fortunes from New York for Bloomberg News. Do any of you read Bloomberg News? Is it worth reading? His work has also appeared in Bloomberg Businessweek, the Wall Street Journal, and the Dutch Financial Daily. And he's a native of the Netherlands, who currently lives in Tel Aviv. Okay, that's swapping out one kind of weather for another, that's for sure. And he spent 4 years reporting from Berlin while researching and writing this book. Fantastic. Fantastic. God, I love my job. That's 2 books in a row that are utterly fascinating. Nazi Billionaires. Fantastic. All right, well, let's keep going. We're doing fine for this mail haul. Here, let's do... There are a couple of packages here that have to be sort of torn open, and I'm extra conscious about them now because some of you have reported intrusive audio elements in my videos. I don't want that. I don't want the audio to be bad, considering that the video is half bad and half adorable. You're adorable, baby. You're adorable. Oh, great. Okay. This next one is something that we've already seen. This is a finished copy of Victoria Shore's Mid-Air, which is 2 novellas. This does have a pub sheet, and it does have a date of late May. So here's a finished copy that's coming out in a month. So it's possible that the first 2 are also coming out in a month. Definitely check the dates if you're interested in either one of them. So this now has blurbs, starred review from Publishers Weekly, good review from Kirkus, and blurbs from Lily Tuck and Susanna Moore. And this, let's see here. In this book, the celebrated author of Backlands, The Plum Trees, and Midnight, traces the rise of one family and the fall of another, paired portrait of social force and personal conflict that attend both success and failure. The first novella, Great Uncle Edward, follows the titular character from his aristocratic origins, Harvard class of '05, to the last gasp of his family's influence and wealth. It is 1978, and Great Uncle Edward's grandniece by marriage is hosting a dinner party. She is the one who narrates the encounter, describing the declining fortunes of each guest. Okay, so after Great Uncle Edward, what's the other story? The second novella, Cleveland Auto Wrecking, follows the good fortunes of an immigrant family whose patriarch, Sam White, illiterate at age 13, makes his way to the American Midwest, where he establishes a successful scrap metal business and retires to the paradise of Southern California. It is his 3 sons, however, who must come to terms with the pleasures and limits of that success. Okay, so I've had this already. I've had this for a while, and I haven't got to it. So now I have the finished copy, but it's still a month away. I probably won't get to it. If either one of the first 2 books has an earlier date, I'll get to that first. I think this might be all finished copies. That would be terrific. I can always use finished copies. I'm just really worried about the audio here. I'm worried these package openings are little explosions in your ears. So what is this now? Oh, okay, great. All right, we've seen this already. This is another finished copy. This is a finished copy of Cherie and End of Cherie by Colette, translated by Rachel Caro. And this also comes out in late May, same date as Mid-Air. Okay, great. And these are, let's see, set in the Parisian demi-monde in the last days of the Belle Epoque. Cherie tells the story of Leah, a courtesan at the end of a successful career, and her lover, the beautiful but emotionally opaque Cherie. Cherie will soon enter the arranged marriage, ending their 6-year affair, which they will each realize too late has been the one real love of their lives. And then the End of Cherie picks up their story in the aftermath of the First World War. So these have had many editions, but this is a new translation. Probably has a new introduction. Is that right? It has a foreword by Lydia Davis and a translator's note by Rachel Caro, and then a few pages of notes at the back. All right, great. Fantastic. So this again, I got the advanced copy, but I've been buried in other stuff, so I haven't got to it. So that's 2 things. But again, they're both May. They're both a month from now. So no pressing priority when I've got lots of other stuff to do. They're there. They'll go in the May shelf when I shift shelves in a few weeks. Or in 1 week, I guess. It's just 1 week, right? Well, I shift the April, get all the April books out, and move all the May books up. Oh my. All right, so this next one is also a finished copy. Oh, great. Okay, great. Great. Okay, so this is new from Random House. What is the date here? The first week of May. So these are May releases. Probably the first two are May releases too. Now I'm thinking. Okay, well let's see what we have here. It's a big, sumptuous historical novel. So those of you who like these sorts of things, you've got a big one coming out in May. This is The Last White Rose. This is a novel by Alison Weir, the historian, about Elizabeth of York. So what have we got here? In this book, in her recently completed Six Tudor Queens series, which I reviewed a couple of those books. I think I reviewed one for the Boston Globe, maybe one for the Christian Science Monitor, or maybe two for the Christian Science Monitor. I didn't review them all, but I reviewed a couple of them. She wrote about Henry VIII's famous 6 wives, bringing them and their fascinating stories to life on the page, and causing me and a few other critics to say, can we have a moratorium, please, on novels about Henry's wives? Can we please do that? Her newest novel, The Last White Rose, goes back in time one more generation to bring us the spectacular story of Elizabeth of York, Henry VIII's mother and the first queen in the Tudor dynasty. Elizabeth of York is the oldest daughter of King Edward IV. Flame-haired, beautiful, and sweet-natured, she is adored by her family. Yet her life is suddenly disrupted when her beloved father dies in the prime of life. I was not responsible. Her uncle, the notorious Richard III, takes advantage of King Edward's death to grab the throne and imprison Elizabeth's 2 younger brothers, the rightful royal heirs. Okay, all right, but they aren't. Only one of them was an heir. The other one was king. As soon as his father died, he was king. Forever afterwards known as the Princes in the Towers, the boys are never seen again. On the heels of this tragedy, Elizabeth is subjected to Richard's overtures to make her his wife, further legitimizing his claim to the throne. King Richard had murdered her brothers, yet she feels she must accept his proposal. As if in a fairy tale, Elizabeth is saved by Henry Tudor, who challenges Richard and defeats him at the legendary Battle of Bosworth Field. Probably the very first time that Henry Tudor has been compared to a prince from a fairy tale. Following his victory, Henry becomes king and asks Elizabeth to be his wife, the first queen in the Tudor line. The marriage is happy and fruitful, not only uniting the warring houses of Lancaster and York, the Red and White Roses, but producing 4 surviving children, one of whom, Henry VIII, will rule the country for the next 36 years. Okay, so this is great. I like this author is one of a couple of working. Her and Carolee Erickson do histories that I like to read and do novels that I like to read. Elizabeth of York's story has been told many, 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 many times in fiction, but I'm always happy to read another. Always, these things her novels never really blow me away. But actually, truth be told, neither do her histories. They're good. They're companionable. They never actually astound me. But this is a pretty thing. So we'll give it a try. Definitely, it comes out on May the 10th. I assume that's the second Tuesday in May. So that's close enough for me to dig into this. It all depends. The first 2 books, The Nazi Billionaires and Disconnected, really intrigue me. So if they are April releases, I'll do them first. But anyway, those of you who like your historical fiction, this is coming out in early May. So be on the lookout. And that is it. That is our mail haul. All finished copies. That's nice. So we've got The Last White Rose. We have Cherie and the End of Cherie. We have Mid-Air, 2 novellas about families at either ends of their spectrum. So you have the immigrants looking at the Statue of Liberty coming into Ellis Island, and you have a wealthy, opulent family. And those are 2 sides, the 2 periods of immigrant families that we're seeing. Then Nazi billionaires who are working and living amongst us today. And finally, Rewired. A psychiatrist looks at the effects of social media, the pernicious effects, and presumably offer some solutions. That would be fun. That'll be interesting to read. I'll check the dates on both of those, but they intrigue me. But anyway, that is the mail for today. I think it's possible that one of the gifts of summer is that a second long walk might be possible. I think that's possible. It's not cold outside, and there's going to be sunlight for hours more. So maybe once the bean is rested a little, we'll go out again. So anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. Nice, healthy mail haul, and I will see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.